Big welcome back to round 4 of the Shannons Nationals. Live pictures back at Queensland Raceway. 2 races to go. This one on track, the Australian Prototype Series, and the Improved Production Racing Association of Queensland will round out the program this weekend with the MCA suspension Improved Production Car Race. Field setting themselves up for the rolling start. It'll be Jason Macris, defending champion, off pole position. John Paul Drake sharing the front row there. Let's see if the normally aspirated Wolf can go with the turbo cars. Paul Trengove, what a fantastic return to racing. P3 in the second race of the weekend this morning. Mark Lauke looking to get big more points out of this race. 5th will be Carmelo Bonaventura, the first of our radicals, and he's having an absolute ripping weekend there. Rogie, then we go back to Paul Androis. Glenn Stolbaum has made it out on track. We've got Adam Beasley. Dave Barham and Daniel Gonzalez at the back of the field had a massive coming together at the last race. Aaron Noonan right alongside me. Darren Smith, as we're about to get away with the race start.
They were running 1-2 on the last lap, and there was contact down at turn 3. Gonzalez into the back of Barham. They will start rear of grid, repaired cars. Different nose cone on Gonzalez's car. It's the spare from Mark Lauke, who starts on the second row of the grid. Away we go. Longer race this one. 18 laps due. And look at all the oil dry that's down here. Jason Macris will lead the way. The race 2 winner is off and rolling through turn 1, but Lauke's made a good jump from the second row of the grid. He's up to second already.
This is what Mark Lauke needs to try and get himself to way back in this championship. John Paul Drake looks to the inside there as well in the normally aspirated version of the Wolf. 2 Tornadoes and a CN car there, the GBO8, the gold car there with the bright orange helmet. The Superman emblazoned across the front of his driving overalls. The 2 turbocharged cars now. Jason Macris, defending champion, multiple champion Mark Lauke in P2, and potential future champion in his Wolf there, John Paul Drake in P3. As they come up to turn 4, it's big breaks for Mark Lauke. He's got some real strengths in his driving style. At the moment, he's still just learning how to cope with turbo boost pouring on. And that's exactly how he described it to me yesterday morning.
Slippery surface flag is on display between turn 4 and 5 from the oil down that we had before this race. You can see some remnants of it there, down to turn 6.
Yeah, you don't want a 6-litre sports sedan carrying 8 litres of oil to leave its mark, signature all over the track, do you? And that's what we're contending with just here at the moment. And you can actually, the display is actually quite good as how the aero works on these cars. It throws it up and then drags it right back down again.
It's one way to show it. It's the wind tunnel on the track.
Certainly
up front,
is.
Macris leading the way, turn 2, onto the back straight.
Quite remarkable little sports cars these, the Australian Prototype Series. Have a look at now. Mark Lauke closes the gap. He's going to be sent high and wide through turn 3 as Macris will crowd the corner in the Marina Mirage car, and in fact they're actually dodging a big trail of oil down there as well. So the ultimate line is being defended, I guess, by that big trail of white oil down.
Yeah, it's a compromised racetrack because it's in all the spots that the drivers pretty much want to go. Dave Barham hasn't really made an impression here. He runs position 9. Hasn't been able to really work his way through the field.
And his fantastic results here at Queensland Raceway have come to an end as of that interaction, that hit that he got from behind earlier on race. And Gonzalez sort of put paid to that. And he's now pressing on with it at the moment. Gonzalez is up to 7th. Dave Barham in the P1 class car is in 9th, and I get the feeling the car wasn't going to be right. There was a lot of damage in that car. It's lucky that the car is a bit older and it's made of a metallic substance as opposed to carbon, that they've been able to get pretty artistic with pop rivets and things like that.
The top 2 haven't been able to get away because John Paul Drake sits in 3rd spot, right in touch with the leaders. Paul Trengove's doing the same in P4. In fact, he set the fastest lap of the race last time around in the west. It's hard to spot it there behind the big roll hoop on the run. Down the back straight to turn 3, longer race. This third and final race, round 3 of the Australian Prototype Series, and there is that oil dry. Paul Trengove doing a nice job of showing us where it is because he ran all the way through it on the exit of turn 3. There's Daniel Gonzalez working his way through from the back of the grid in the Wolf Tornado, and look at that sandstorm from driving through the racing line.
The Meloff rendering car there, Carmelo Bonaventura, having a bit of a look down the inside.
Whoa,
and there goes Jason Macris, defending champion.
Boy, it's been happening in this category this weekend. You lead and you end up in drama.
And boy, it's dry in this part of the world at the moment. Every time we've had a car off, it's got a lot of dust up in the air. There is Daniel Gonzalez in the Realty Lane car. Here it is, all by himself. Mark Lauke was far enough behind that he was able to take evasive action. Didn't have to go entirely to the dirt himself, but managed to keep it all together. John Paul Drake now manages to get the lead away from Mark Lauke. So Mark Lauke not being able to take a trick at the front of the racing here this weekend.
Technically, you could say that Mark Lauke runs second and half of his car runs sixth, because he's lent his spare nose cone to Daniel Gonzalez, as now he goes for the lead, almost over the white line on the grass. But if you look further back in the pack, that white Wolf Tornado, well, it's not fully white. It's got a bit of fluoro yellow on the front.
Good way to drag extra points out of the round. Hey, get your nose in the car and running a couple of behind you. Have a look at this here. John Paul Drake going around the outside. Mark Lauke trying to cover it off. And in fact, he was on the cleaner of the lines and still pumping dust up in the air out of the back of his Wolf Tornado. Back to pictures now. There's our race leader, John Paul Drake. Now this would be a nice run if JP could get to the line. Lauke lines him up. It's a big run up the inside. Threshold braking on the Lauke, number 55. JP says, wow, that was pretty impressive. Mark, I'll take the lead back off you and lead you down the straight.
And Trent goes with them as well. Now he pulls out of the toe, rockets on by to take the lead. Hey, Macros has got going again, Darren. He sits position 9. He's only 10 seconds off the lead. Barham's in front of him. He's only 4.5 seconds away from the lead. So the top 8 cars in this race separated by 4.4 seconds. That's pretty good.
Certainly is. Points coming into this race. Dave Barham still had 8 points lead over Carmelo Bonaventura, and at the moment in the Melos rendering car, Carmelo Bonaventura is going to take those points away from him. He's doing a tremendous job. Now we have a race in 3, and now we have a race with the returning Trengove, and he goes side by side with John Paul Drake. How long before we see John Trengove out there in a West? He's got this car in from Jam Motorsport this week, and what does he do? He jams it up the inside of the other Jam Motorsport car.
It's a double jam.
John Paul Drake.
Double jam.
It is. Head to Bonbog for the very best. And here we have Paul Trengove, the OTR on the run branding on the car. As we know it, the OTR Bend Motorsport Park in Tailem Bend. He knows the place well. It's where he works. And he has returned after a long, long time. 2003 was the last time he competed in the Australian Drivers' Championship and got a second place. Mark Lauke running straight down over the all-downer there, and it's almost like a Dick Dastardly smokescreen the way it puts it up in the air.
Gonzalez is moving. He's caught up to this pack, but it's Barham who's moving now. Fastest lap of the race, 1:12.2. He sits in P6. He won't be far away. He's just in the back of that camera shot. Onto the back straight, that orange Chiron car. Now, Gonzalez to the inside on Drake. Down the inside. He's got enough road to get this one done. He's got to pull it up. Trengove is going a long way around every time at turn 3.
What Daniel Gonzalez did then as well was crowd John Paul Drake onto that oil downer that runs down the left-hand side, driver's left into turn 3 there, so it forces him to pull in behind it. Gonzalez again down the inside of Lauke. I've got your nose, mate, and I'm going to take your new one off the front of your own car on the way through.
That's
he
cheeky.
lets 2 through.
How's that for cheekiness? Borrows the nose, uses it to snowplow. Well, not snowplow, but he got down the inside and it was pretty tight between them. Here's Barham. I talked about him closing in. He's arrived in the party. He's in a P4.
Mark Lauke's lost 3 spots over the last 3 corners in this race. Not ideal. Here it is.
Have a look
again. Daniel Gonzalez down the inside there. Gets a bit cheeky with it. Mark Lauke, ever the gentleman, says, well, if you want it that much, I'll catch up with you later on in the race. And by the way, there's some rent due on that nose cone.
Price might have just gone up.
So Jason Macros is 4th in the title hunt coming into this race at 2:31, equal with Carmelo Bonaventura. Mark Lauke on 2:13, Daniel Gonzalez on 200, John Paul Drake on 189. So there's a bit of a logjam at the top of the point score. So that's really good for the rest of the championship as it starts to unfold. And look at that, Paul Trengove going very, very wide there. The Chiron of Barham now starting to fight back. You get the feeling, Aaron, that he may have spent those first 4 laps just feeling things out.
Well, he's got a hang of it now because he's through to second. He's past Paul Trengove down at turn 4. And Gonzalez, the leader, is only 2 seconds away. There's Drake. There's Lauke. Jason Macros hasn't really recovered. He's P9. He's still 11 seconds away from the lead. This is the end of lap 7 towards half-race distance of this final race of the Australian Prototype Series. They'll be with us for the next round of the Shannons Nationals at Winton, and they will round out their 5-round series at the Ben Motorsport Park in South Australia in mid-November. Here's Lauke looking for 4th spot. Down the inside, turn 1, got it done, but look for Drake to try to race him back up the inside at turn 2. He had the right idea.
I think he had to get out of it there too,
yeah,
otherwise it would have been a monumental one. We saw one there with the Cranston boys a few years ago where the car went about 8 foot up in the air and came down and sprayed aluminium and carbon fibre all over turn 1. I think they're still picking the carbon fibre up out of the sand trap down there.
Gonzalez with the new fastest lap of the race last time around, Darren, 1:10.647, 2.1 seconds the margin. Back to Dave Barham in the Chiron, who's just escaping from our view. Trengove runs 3rd, Lauke next from Drake, Roger next P6.
We've got 11 laps to go. Are we going to have a role reversal coming into turn 3 at some point between these two protagonists?
I wasn't going to say it, but you've gone with it.
Let's go with it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, second last race of this round. Let's see what happens. It ended in tears last time out.
Well,
and Jason Macris and John Paul Drake came home. Macris a little bit like a Stephen Bradbury skated his way to the line.
Yeah, last lap. Didn't have to do anything but watch the first 2 sail off the road. Here's Macris. He's back in position 8. He's worked his way up 1 more, but he's losing touch with the leaders. Gonzalez going even faster. New fastest lap, 1:10.3, but this is still over 2 seconds away from the lap record pace for the Australian Prototype Series. So the track's really been compromised by that sports sedan race and the oil down. We had a bit of a delay before this race because the officials were out there on the circuit doing a great job getting a lot of oil dry down on the road. You can see there on the run to turn 3 a significant amount of it out there. There's probably more of it covering a percentage of the racetrack than not in terms of the lap overall.
Yeah, there's about 3 kilometres of the 3.2 kilometres that have got a good bit of oil down on it. Lauke down now takes, sorry, it's a back marker just getting through there.
Oh, that's for spot. That's a spot for 3. That's Trengove there for P3.
Sun's shining off the cars now as it starts to get long in the sky. It gets pretty dark once we get to about 4:45 here at Queensland Raceway at this time of the year, so we're hoping to get all of the racing finished off before then.
Just tell them to drive faster.
Yeah, let's get on with it, boys and girls.
It's a good fight. I've really enjoyed watching the prototypes this weekend. It's not a series that I've spent lots of time around and seeing, but the racing's been good. There's variety. There's cars that look different, sound different. Oh, there's cars off the road at turn 1 there.
Is that Daniel Gonzalez? Is that our race leader?
No, he's on his way down at turn 3, so I'm not sure if he was the
David Barham
contributor to that. I'm trying to see around.
It's Dave Barham, the orange car up against the wall.
You're right.
So that's a shame. Pushing from the rear of the grid, both he and Daniel Gonzalez. Gonzalez has got to the front. There goes Dave Barham. That's a crying shame there. Yeah, it looks like
right front's
busted. Disappeared, broken suspension possibly, or is it sitting awkwardly on the gravel there? But he's certainly out of the car. Will take no further part. So Dave Barham came sailing into this round with a massive lead in the championship, and he's going to leave this round absolutely compromised now as far as a championship title. It really does light things up for Winton Motor Raceway.
Our timing screen, Darren, showing a 5-second post-race time penalty for car 55, Mark Lauke, but at the moment sits 7 odd seconds off the lead of the race. So
I can't imagine what Mark's done.
Unless it's a start line
procedure,
start line penalty from the rolling start.
Yeah, maybe, or swerving after a certain designated point to warm the tyres up. There's yellow flags covering off turn 1 at the moment, so if anyone's going to try and drive round the outside down into turn 1, that's been covered off by Dave Barham, parked up there. 8 laps still to go, so there's still plenty of opportunity for positions to swap around. So Gonzalez, for all intents and purposes, driven away with it. He's got a 7.65 second lead. Mark Lauke is next on the road with a 5-second lead, so he needs to really get a hurry on so that he can negate that penalty being applied at the moment. He has got Paul Trengove right within striking distance, and behind him is John Paul Drake. So you'd have to say at the moment, Mark Lauke on the road, position 2, but ultimately end of the race right now. We could go back as far as P5. Gonzalez now, close-up shots of the Realty Lane driver, and he has driven the weekend of his life here this weekend. New to the category, really finding his feet in the car, even though his feet are covered off by Mark Lauke's front wing. He's doing a very strong job. So we probably should refer to this as the Lauke Flour Mills Realty Lane.
It's only fair.
Daniel Gonzalez. It's only fair, yeah.
When I see white and fluoro yellow, I think of Brawn Formula One straight away. That's the first thing that...
World champion Jenson Button.
10 years ago this year, 2009.
And now fastest lap of Mount Panorama in that Honda Type R.
For a production car,
under the secrecy of bringing Jenson into the country. Good campaign run by Honda there.
Good fight here. This is still going. Darren, between Drake and Trent Gove. That's a change of position. That should be P3 and 4 that they're fighting for there.
Interestingly enough, it's only about 200 metres behind the main building at the Bend Motorsport Park that these two cars will be returning to over the next couple of days at the Jam Motorsport shed. One of the few teams to take a full-time position at the Bend Motorsport Park.
Won't be far to go when they have their last round of the series in mid-November. Gonzalez at the line that time. A 109.45 is his best lap. He did a 9.8 then. The Chasers are in the 11s and 12s. He's got a 9.2 second margin, 6 laps left to run. And Mark Lauke with that 5-second penalty that we mentioned before. He runs second on the road, but when you're +5, that'll slip him back to position 5. So Jason Macris would stand to pick up another spot after that spin earlier on.
Yeah, certainly Jason Macris trying. It's hard to win a championship. It's even harder to go back-to-back. We've seen it. This weekend we saw the BMW M4 with the production cars go back-to-back in the fight in the night and then back it up again with the race this morning for the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series. So can we see Jason Macris start to make something of his 2019 season? He's been thereabouts, and we just saw him earlier in this race go off of his own accord. There was pressure from Mark Lauke. He certainly wasn't helped off in any way. He had a good couple of car lengths lead. Macris just getting his head down and getting on with it. In fact, Jason Macris is one of those guys that seems to put a spin behind him very, very quickly. He doesn't carry the baggage of it. He just gets back on with the job at hand, manages to put the disappointment behind him very, very quickly.
Gonzalez is building the margin, 9.7 back to Lauke. Here's Drake, P3. The sun's starting to fall here at Queensland Raceway. Gets down into the driver's eyes on the run down the back straight towards turn 3.
It's quite horrendous on the run out of turn 2 as you turn onto the back straight. If you've got a visor that's got any pitting or anything like that, indeed, or if you haven't got a tinted visor, you're going to be in a world of pain right about now. At least the improved production cars, they'll have the big MCA suspension sticker banner across the front of their windscreen to keep it out of their eyes.
A bit harder to have a windscreen banner in one of these.
Yep, absolutely. Well, they managed to do it in F1, don't they? They still managed to get a big logo right across the front of the visor.
They'll find a way anywhere to get a logo there.
Absolutely.
The fight for second's a good one here, but it's on the track, but it's not on the timing screen. You're looking at it here. Lauke runs second, Drake, Trengove right behind them. But remember that this fluoro yellow car will pick up a post-race 5-second penalty. So the reality is that he's actually going to be P4 or 5.
4 laps remaining for our race leader, Daniel Gonzalez. A very handy lead, sneaking up on 13 seconds in this race. And then the battle for second, third and fourth physically is Lauke, Drake and Trengove. But in reality, it's Drake, Trengove and Macris, because that 5-second penalty, as Aaron has just focused on, will put him right back. So Mark Lauke is probably going to struggle to get 5 seconds away from either of these 3 that are currently with him on the back straight. And he'd dearly like to try and drag some points back, but he is, again, one of these kind of races that even a bad day at the racetrack is better than any other day of the year around work or home or whatever it might be. He just loves being at the racetrack. On social media, these guys celebrate on a Monday that they're going racing in the following weekend. So they have the big countdown and they enjoy the competition on track. Certainly has been willing here this weekend as we look at the closing laps. 3 laps left to go for Daniel Gonzalez in this round of the Australian Prototype Series. Final race for the round. 18 minutes elapsed in this race.
Good fight here. This is really close. Completely different cars in this mix. Gonzalez lead 15.8 seconds. He has got this one in his back pocket. But don't be fooled here. Lauke has a 5-second post-race penalty. It will be added to his race time. It'll drop him down the order. and it will put Drake to second, Trengove to third, and Macris is in the game. He's taken his time after that spin earlier on, but he's back on them now.
Trengove coming back at John Paul Drake as well here. And is it just me, or as the sun goes down, Mark Lauki's car gets brighter? Is it possible that it gets a brighter yellow as the sun starts to set in the west? Smoke coming out of the back of the Trengove car that time on the overrun. In fact, is that the Macris car? It is. Macris has gone through. Trengove fights back. So Macris has just had his head down, concentrating, trying to drag it back. He ranges up on the back of Trengove now, side by side. It's going to be a big braking manoeuvre in the Tornado. And gets around the inside of the corner. Trengove goes wide as he's chosen to do. Obviously suits the west best. The turbocharged car gets the power down and just drives on by the 1000cc unit. Drove on by. So Jason Macris. Jason Macris gets onto the back straight in the Marina Mirage car, dragging some points back into this weekend's haul. And Trengove looks to be slowing at the back of that battle at the moment.
Well, it's 14 years since he last raced. He's probably had a puff.
Puffed. Puffed. Absolutely. Got to do some training before we get to Winton.
He'll get back to fourth place, though, because remember the time penalty for Lauki. We're hearing from race control it's for a driving infringement. Macris now down the inside by Drake. Now, can he turn it? Yes, he can. He can cover it off. Drake can't get back down the inside for the run to turn 5. So that puts Macris up now into third on the road, but it will put him second in the motor race. Gonzalez, our leader, is on his final lap. 18 seconds the margin. He's on his way down through turn 2 onto the back straight as the rest of them we're following here on our live streaming coverage of the Shannons Nationals from Queensland Raceway make their way across the line on their Dick Johnson straight through turn 1 up to turn 2. And then they get to the point where the sun's starting to get pretty nasty. There's the shadows over the track on the run down the back straight. And for the drivers, it's all about the sunlight that is shining right in their eyes off to their left as they get to pretty much the braking area of this long run down the back straight.
Tremendous weekend of racing here as round 4 of the Shannons Nationals starts to come to a close. Still got the MCA suspension, improved production cars. They're warming up out the back. Let's get them down the pit lane so we can just basically follow these cars around on their warm-up lap. Get their final race for the weekend done and dusted. Check your local guides for post-race on the improved production cars too, if you've come all the way to the track and you want to catch them more out there in the world. So out on the dirt goes John Paul Drake. Checkered flag falls, and it is Daniel Gonzalez in the Lauki Flour Mills, Realty Lane. Tornado, the Wolf Tornado, gets to the line. Coming up to take second on the road, but will be relegated back with a post-race penalty. It'll be Jason Macris ultimately home in second place. So that's a really good points haul for Jason Macris. And in fact, it gives him the round on 114 points. It sees John Paul Drake hauling some great points to get second in the round. So he'll go to P3 in that race. So a podium for John Paul Drake after a pretty tough weekend there for him. Mark Lauki will be relegated, so he'll probably just drop off that podium, and it'll be Paul Trengove on his return to the sport with a podium result for this round. Good result.
Stop now. Come back in another 14 years' time.
Do it all again. Come back as not the veteran, the historic version.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's recap the order from the third race in round 3 of the Australian Prototype Series. Daniel Gonzalez, DNF last race. P1 this race. What a turnaround that was. 16.97 seconds the margin over Mark Lauki, but of course the 5 seconds will drop him back down the order. He will finish P6, I would say, when you add all those sums up. Macris next, fought back from a spin, then John Paul Drake and Trengove. Good stuff. Dave Barham, though, sadly, a DNF. His car is parked on the exit of turn 1. That was the Australian Prototype Series. They'll be with us for the next round of the Shannons Nationals at Winton. Let's take a look at the highlights. And it started pretty difficult for them because they were straight out after the sports sedans. There was some oil on the road that had been cleaned up. Jason Macris really cleaned himself up on the exit of turn 5.
Well, it could be termed as the first ever prototype snowstorm as they went down into turn 1 there, and Macris continued to keep the dust up in the air as he went off and fought back ultimately for P2 in the race. So absolutely commendable effort there. This guy came from the back of the grid, as did this fella. He's had a terrific run at QR over the last 2 years, and today really did turn out to be not the ultimate run there for Dave Barham. He's had a terrific year. Let's hope that he can keep the confidence and keep the momentum, get to the next round and start to redeem some points in this championship. Jason Macris coming down now. Coming down now to turn one. And that will see the end of the prototypes. Aaron Noonan, thank you very much for your time during the prototypes this weekend.
Thanks, Darren. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We're not done yet on the Shannons Nationals live stream, though. Improved production not too far away. And speaking of improved production, Cameron Vandenuggen talks us through this exciting category.